Blake's Buzz Live. Buzz, 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 buzz. It's Blake's Buzz Live. Buzz, 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 buzz. It's Blake's Buzz Live. More, hate less, read comics. It's Blake's Buzz Live.
Buzz, buzz, babies.
Buzz, buzz, babies. It's Wednesday night. Happy new comic book day. And I am excited tonight. I know I'm usually the indie comics guy that all of you look up to and respect and, lift me up on your shoulders. But I do love the big two. And I grew up loving DC. I grew up a huge Batman fan. I love Superman. And I'm excited for this new age of DC Comics. I don't know if any of you are familiar. There's an awesome new event called Lazarus Planet. We're going to talk about that tonight, but we're also going to talk to a really talented writer guest that's on the show. I want to introduce you to this talented individual. He worked with Josh Williamson on Justice League. He wrote Justice League Incarnate, and he worked on Future State and did the Gotham Future State series. And he's now done a couple shorts for some of these Lazarus Planet issues. And excitedly, he's writing the new Unstoppable Doom Patrol series, ladies and gentlemen. Dennis Culver is in the house. How you doing, sir? Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, I'm so stoked. I'm a big fan of Doom Patrol. I've loved it. The show is great. The comics are great. I've read more of. I'm more into I've read more Rachel Pollack than I have the other Doom Patrol series. Like Grant's been on. I have the omnibus is still in plastic, basically, right. and I have the Flex Mentalo hardcover. So like I have it ready to go. I just haven't had a chance to dive into it, and I'm also excited because Gerard Way's getting the deluxe treatment. His run is
that should be out I think this month if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, next week I think it's coming soon. I think everybody's pretty excited about that, and I'm excited to talk to you about where you draw your inspiration from this run, but more importantly, just to kind of kick off this interview, you are very much digging your heels into the DC Comics universe, and it's very cool. As I mentioned, you spun out of Future State with a maxi series, or it's technically on. Is it ongoing?
It was ongoing. We ended at issue 18, though. It spun out of the main Future State event.
Okay.
And it continued some of the stories. Josh and I kicked it off, and then I continued the book, Future State Gotham, and it kind of followed the adventures, primarily of Jason Todd. But it was set in all of the characters in Gotham and the kind of dystopia future they were living in under the Magistrate. But yeah, we had a lot of fun with that book. Got to tell some really cool stories.
And it was interesting too because I loved that event. It was so wild. It was so different. So literally out of place, right? In the future, everything's changing. All the one shots and little quick 2-issue or so miniseries, it was so well done, and they gave a lot of chances to indie writers to kind of have fun in that sandbox. But you came out with this, 18 issues to run, right? And especially in the days of constant reboots now, where I feel like Marvel and DC think that we can't count past 6 because there's just always a new number one. But it was cool to see an actual series spin out of all that, and I'm glad you got to spend some time with that a little longer. It was a fun book. And then after that, like I mentioned, still working with Josh, you came out with Justice League Incarnate, which I thought was a really solid Darkseid story. I thought you did him a lot of justice. He's a cosmic prick that we love to hate.
Yes.
And and he's dangerous too, right? Even saying that, I know he's not real, and I feel like I need to look over my shoulder for parademons now.
Yeah, he's a big idea, and he's been around for such a long time, and it's a hard idea to get rid of. So I get that vibe of looking over your shoulder. He's the god of evil, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun book. That was a little bit more involved because it was leading into the Dark Crisis event. So there was a lot more, just to coordinate and things like that. And it's kind of a spiritual sequel to Grant Morrison's Multiversity book as well, because we deal with a lot of the same characters, which is where Justice Incarnate or Justice League Incarnate came from. And then we got to also take a tour of the multiverse, which was really cool. We got to put Flashpoint Batman in a cartoon world, which was one of my favorite bits. Just a lot of like little neat things. We got to have a lot of fun with it while still telling this like big epic story that led into like a major crossover.
Yeah, and again tying into another big reboot of DC, like that was like the first spin-off of the Frontier, right? Of
Right, the Infinite
Williamson's
Frontier,
Frontier.
yeah.
And so you're very much like a prominent voice now in each of these new ages of DC, and now you're working on some stuff in Lazarus Planet for the new dawn of DC, right? And you're, of course, we know you're doing Unstoppable Doom Patrol, but as we all saw a couple issues ago from Lazarus Planet, you also wrote a Firestorm short with it didn't say the end on the last page, it
Right.
said and so I'm sure there's some stuff you won't be able to talk about, but I'm excited for you. I'm excited for all these how you've got your fingertips in a lot of different properties at DC, and not only are your fingertips there, like you're doing well with these characters, and I think you've built a lot of trust with DC fans that we're not worried about the properties they give you, right? We're excited about the
I
property.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, man, no problem. And I can't imagine like how that feels, right? Like, I'm sure you're super stoked. Everybody loves Doom Patrol. My buddy Cole, can we talk about it? Like, yes, like I think we all love Doom Patrol, and like the show brought in so many new fans. And then of course, like Grant Morrison, Gerard Way being who he is as an iconic musician and storyteller, and like like everybody who's got on Doom Patrol has like a very special story to tell, and I'm excited to see what yours is, and I'm excited to see some of the changes that you're bringing to the team. First off, Rockstar Chris Burnham on your run, like
Yeah.
that's super amazing.
He's
It looks
amazing.
gorgeous.
He's one of the best.
Yeah, like how are you writing your scripts for him? Like, are you very detail oriented, or are you kind of like, this kind of needs to happen? Do your magic, like.
Well, so a lot of people don't know. I started out drawing comics as well, and I've drawn a few indie books, some things through Oni, who did a book called Edison Rex with Chris Robertson. But during that time, I also shared studio space with Chris Burnham. So we spent a lot of time together talking and arguing about comics. We have a lot of overlap in the things we love and the things we hate, even. And we're both big DC Comics fans. So when I was talking to my editor and the conversation that evolved into us talking about Doom Patrol, Ben brought it up. He was like, "You should get Burnham involved in this." And I was like, "Yeah, he's the perfect guy for Doom Patrol." And so I texted Burnham, and he's like, "Hell yeah!" And we kind of went from there. So we already, it's not like we came in cold doing this collaboration together. We kind of came into it already having a shorthand and being able to talk to each other. If I can't get an idea across in a script, I'll make a sketch. Burnham will draw it way better, but I can always draw that out. Or like even the symbol that the Doom Patrol uses, which is like the P nested in the D,
Yeah.
like that came from a conversation where I was like, "Hey, do you think this is a thing?" And then he did his drawing version of it, and we kept passing that back and forth until we landed on something that we were both satisfied with. It's a great collaboration. It's being able to make comics with your friends, which I think is some of the best comics come about that way. So we're having a blast, and it's a real good time.
Yeah, if you guys are having fun, we're gonna have fun, and
Yeah,
I'm
that's how
glad
I
you
feel
guys are
too.
vibing already. That's good. Like I was already excited for this, but that makes me even more excited. So we've got some questions here. So WXYZ Gotham City Radio, thanks for tuning in. These guys were so excited they were leaving comments before we even went live, and a lot of their comments are things that I was planning on asking you anyway. So like, great minds think alike, but yeah, I'm interested in this too. Like we're seeing right now, of course, we're seeing a ton of crossovers, right? Because we're in the midst of the new event, Lazarus Planet. The rain is toxic, coming at a great time with all the crazy shit going on in Ohio right now. Totally makes you think about that differently. Like reading virus shit during the pandemic. I remember that
Yeah.
too. It
Yeah,
hits
it's
a little
weird how like
different.
fact and fiction can overlap sometimes, and it seems like more and more as time goes on as well. So Donna DC, Doom Patrol is very much a part of that, and one of the big things that I'm communicating about this run of Doom Patrol is we are firmly set in the DC universe. This isn't over in our own corner out of continuity. We are tied into everything. And all the other Doom Patrol books that happened previous to this, they all count. This isn't a reboot.
Cool.
So all your comics count, all the Doom Patrol that you've read. In my mind, that's something that's happened to them in some way, shape, or form along their timeline. And the way Dawn of DC kind of sprung out was when you get to the end of Dark Crisis by Josh Williamson and Daniel Sampere, is at the end of that, the heroes won. It was all about legacy, but then there was also that teaser where Amanda Waller showed up, and she's brought all these people with her from Earth 3 because she was spending some time over there. Things have started to, happen where they don't want heroes, and yet heroes are emerging. And then with Lazarus Planet is causing all this havoc, affecting people in different ways. It's causing more and more metahumans to start to appear, people with brand new superpowers, brand new supervillains, all of those things. The DC universe is a more dangerous place suddenly. And the Doom Patrol have a new mission statement, and their mission statement is real simple. It's saving the world by saving the monsters. Because there's more metahumans than ever, they're out there helping out metahumans before other things happen to them. And really, when you think about it, if you're a metahuman, you suddenly have powers, a few things can happen, right? Like you can end up, the Justice League come, they stop you, or Batman comes and stops you, or whoever, and you end up somewhere, not the greatest place, like Arkham Asylum. And, people that go to Arkham Asylum, they either become bigger monsters or they become victims of those monsters. The best case scenario, you might go to Star Labs, but really you're just, you're in a laboratory and you're kind of still, in a prison. It's not a hospital. It's not designed to help you. It's trying to help you solve the problem of your powers. The absolute worst case scenario in the DC universe is you end up in that place like with the Suicide Squad, where you have a bomb in your head and you're a weapon for the government and you're acting against your will. The Doom Patrol don't like any of that. And what they want to do is they want to provide a safe haven where they can help these people who have these new abilities, who really view them as disabilities, and teach them to live a life. If you suddenly have tentacle arms, you got to learn how to do simple things like tie your shoes, like you can just get things going like that. So the Doom Patrol's out there rescuing people and taking care of them and helping them rehabilitate into society. That steps on a lot of the toes with the other heroes, and it puts them in conflict because the way they handle things is outside the current system of things in the DC universe. So they're definitely involved. They're definitely a part of Dawn of DC. As you'll see as the upcoming issues get solicited, you'll see how they run into some different people. If you look at the preview pages for issue 1, they're rolling right into Gotham City. And, Batman doesn't like that. And they're not asking permission. They're going there because there's a metahuman to rescue.
That is cool. And so that's another question we've got from Gotham City Radio that I wanted to ask. So, in the new issue that came out yesterday, we get our taste of the new Doom Patrol, of, how you're writing these characters, the team that you've assembled, and, of course, how, Chris is drawing them, which the pages look absolutely glorious. And then real quick, I want to shout out to Comics by the Bay. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Emmanuel. Thanks for coming in. And yes, that's what I love about Lazarus Planet too, is it's the heroes are unable to do what they do normally, and the people that they protect are having these forces turn them into something else that they can't control. It's a wonderful clusterfuck. I'm loving it. If I'm really glad that we got introduced to each other, because that kind of made me dive into this event that I would have waited for. Typically, especially because I've done the new DC Ultra, right? So I've paid that $99, and I get stuff a month after it hits the shelves on the app, and I've really been digging it. Like, the app is nice. It helped me read all the backstory coming into this. Starting with World's Finest, Superman, Batman, World's Finest, and then Batman versus Robin, and how all these things, and then Monkey Prince, and how all that has spun into this you know,
I love that app. I use it all the time.
it's cool,
It's a
right? Like
great reference tool at the very least. You
I
know, like
keep I keep waiting for Marvel to. I wish Marvel would kind of do the same thing. Like, okay, give us $100 and you can get
yeah,
like
yeah.
it'd
Their
be
app, I
nice.
think you got to wait 3 months maybe or 6 months. I can't
Yeah,
remember. But the
it's good.
Marvel
It's
app's
6
good
months
too.
for
But
them.
yeah, the DC app, they've really, it's just so smooth. I love the way it reads. It's great.
Hmm. And yeah, I've been a fan of it since it first launched. Like when just the regular DC universe launched, and you could it had all the movies and stuff on it too. You know,
Oh
like
yeah, I
before
remember that.
like
Yeah.
I was like, this is really dope. And I didn't use it a lot, but that like streaming it to the TV and like doing the panel by panel on the TV was like, I mean, it's different. You could like lay in bed and read in a different way on the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
but so
it's
yeah,
fun.
I've been a big fan of that. But anyways, like I had to kind of speed up the process, right? Because I couldn't wait a month, which and I'm glad I didn't have to because this event is very fun. Like Alpha, like hit the ground running. As I had a blast with the previous series. I love Mark Waid. I haven't read any of Mark Waid's new stuff in a while, so it's kind of cool to dive back into that. And then I I really enjoy this anthology format of these bigger double-sized issues, the 4 stories in each one, and a lot of rock star talent on these stories too. And a lot of them seem to matter. I've liked most of what I read. I'm happy, you know, buying them on Comixology and stuff. Like it's working, and I'm really excited for it. And because usually I get burned out on the big events, right? Because it's you know like a lot of times I feel like people try and break your pockets with the tie-ins,
Yeah,
and
this is cool because you
this
get a
isn't
lot
as
of
bad.
bite-sized samples of different characters, a lot of great art styles, and really all of those anthologies. There's something in there for everybody, and yeah, they've been really cool. I enjoy reading them too. Like I love looking through them and like just seeing. Because I don't know everything that's going on at DC, so I get just as excited with hints of what's coming. It's like, oh, that's neat, and so that's always really fun.
And I guess we need to know about Simon. Simon is very
Okay.
interesting. I don't want to get too much into it. Like I don't like doing spoilers and stuff. And today's new comic book day, and the comic book came out yesterday. So I guess if you haven't read it, it's your own fault. But he's a cool like mushroom fun. He's a fun guy, right? Sorry,
Yeah,
that was a
he's a
bad.
fun guy.
I've been
Yeah,
but
yeah.
is he
I'll
gonna
set
be
it
a
up.
is he gonna is he
So
gonna
yeah,
be a
the Doom Patrol's
recurring
mission
member?
is they get called in by because Larry Trainer, who's Negative Man, he once worked for the Air Force. He was a test pilot, and he gets called in by his former superior officer, who's now a General Blanche, and basically they ask a favor. They're like, "This is something we can't handle. This is something only the Doom Patrol can handle. Can you help us out?" The Lazarus Rain got to one of their guys, and his powers are out of control, and there's a secret clandestine military base that's being overrun by his powers. And when they go down there, there's all these like weird manifestations. There's like crazy clowns and bugs and just like all kinds of just nightmare stuff. And what they discover is it's the entire base is just covered in fungus or these mushrooms. And Larry, who kind of takes a prominent role in the story, ends up meeting the metahuman who's Simon, and together they talk and work it out. But they figure out how his powers work, and basically what he's doing uh, is almost in a magic mushroom kind of way. He's tapping into some of the primal fears that the rest of the soldiers in the base have, and it's causing them to manifest and attack everybody. And so Simon, General Blanche, those are characters that we'll definitely see in the series. Like this story matters. It was definitely made to kind of get us ready for the new series and give some hints. You don't need to read it to read the main series, but if you do, it's like little Easter eggs. So when General Blanche shows up again, you'll already know him, and when Simon shows up again, you'll already know him.
And
So
when Jane is calling the shots, you'll already
right,
be ready for that. I loved that, by the way. I am so excited for whatever version of her is going to be running the show, right? And I can even see like if it was different versions, how some missions maybe way more wild because of who's calling this. I don't know. Like
yeah.
I'm sure you're going to take that to really interesting places, and I'm excited to see that character return in that role. Like
Yeah,
I
the
was
chief
very
the chief will
unexpected.
be a regular character. It's Jane, one of Jane's alternate identities that's specifically tailor made for this role to lead the Doom Patrol. And that causes some conflicts both internally and externally because Jane's normally in the driver's seat. So there's this other identity that's running things more frequently and is spending more time outside than Jane. So that causes the internal conflict. And also, the chief and Jane are two separate identities, and the chief is a lot more tough. She's the leader, she's in charge, and that's gonna put her in conflict with some of the rest of the team as well.
Real quick question: Are you? I'm sure you are. You're familiar with like Chainsaw Man, right? The new manga
Of course.
sensation. I very much enjoyed the. I assumed it was a nod to that in this in this short. And I
Burnham and I are both anime and manga fans, so
that's cool.
yeah, it's definitely a
Great.
nod. The Chainsaw Nun is actually if you when you get to the Grant Morrison series, when they go down in Jane's Underground, you see like basically background characters of the different altars, but the Chainsaw Nun is there. She's also in the TV show, but it's just a nun holding a chainsaw. And
Oh.
as I was thinking about the way Jane's powers worked, I was like, well, it'd be cooler if she manifested the chainsaw somehow. And I was like, well, what if her hands were chainsaws? Like that's really cool looking, and it's a nun, right? Like a crazy nun with
Yeah.
chainsaw hands. You gotta have Burnham draw that, right? Like that's definitely the thing.
So you mentioned when we talked about Justice League Incarnate and how you spun out of Morrison's like Multiversity, and Morrison also worked on 52, the once the past series.
Right.
Well, everybody worked on 52, I feel like, but he was one of the writers on there, and that was like my first like. Well, and kind of the world's first dip into like the multiverse and the 52 worlds and that new big mystery that spawned that DC has taken and to all these different elements now, which I started on with the first Crisis, I guess technically,
Yeah.
but that was like a new way to explore that element of the DC universe. And now you're writing Doom Patrol, which Morrison also wrote previously. Like, do you look into a lot of his previous DC works for inspiration? Like, what big like Doom Patrol? What did you research with? What did you build inspiration from?
Well, I'm a lifelong DC fan. Like I don't you've probably seen on the internet. I'm from Florida originally, and they have those water ski show, which was like all of the superheroes, and you'd go to SeaWorld and you would see this water ski event, and it was basically the Super Friends doing that. And I went there as a very, very, very young kid, like 4 years old, maybe a little younger. And when you come out of that, they were handing out comics, like just free comics.
Oh wow.
And so my first comic was handed to me by someone dressed as a superhero and it was like an issue of Batman. And so growing up, as I became a teenager, I discovered Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, and I was reading that while I was in high school, which I think is a great time to
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
come
that's
into
good.
that. But also, as I grew older, I started reading Grant Morrison's JLA and all that stuff. And there's obviously a lot of other creators like Jeff Johns built an amazing bibliography through the DC universe, and like I read all of that stuff too in my 20s, and like it's a tapestry that I'm very much attached to, and I love it very much. So I've followed the Doom Patrol, either reading it as it came out or backtracking through the back issue bins. But I've read everything, and some of it as it was coming out. So I'm a big fan of it. Obviously, the Grant Morrison stuff is probably some of the most instrumental stuff, but I like the Paul Kuppenberg stuff that came before it. I'm a fan of the Gerard Way stuff, and if you follow that, I think there's a through line with those comics and with those characters, and we very much continue that, but we're taking it in a new direction.
Nice. So you heard him, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the Grant Morrison omnibus, pick up the Rachel Pollack omnibus, and then pick up the Gerard Way Deluxe Edition that's coming out. You
Yeah,
have a
all
month.
your comics
You have
matter.
a
There's
month
a
to get
there's a
this
great
homework done.
Bronze Age omnibus of
Oh,
Doom Patrol 2
Burn
that
did it
collects
too,
all the
right?
Kupperberg stuff and all that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read. I've read bits and pieces of some stuff. But yeah, I'm a big Morrison fan. Yeah, unfortunately, with what I do now, like I get limited to what I want to read as opposed to like prep work for like
Sure,
stuff like
sure.
this. So like I want to read all these omnibuses I buy, but then like you run out of time, or like, you do an interview or something comes up, and then, or a publisher asks for something. Which is great, and I love that opportunity. But yeah, it just sometimes makes it hard to, like, I bought the 3 Jeff Johns JSA omnibuses. I've
Oh
wanted
yeah,
those
that's
forever.
some great stuff.
And that's that, but that, so okay, we're at like 4,000 pages of comics, and it's like, I was like, when am I going to find time to read? Because I was like, man, if I read like 2 issues a day, right, from those omnibuses, that's still months to get
Yeah.
through those, and but anyways, I hopefully one day, right, I buy for my
Listen,
retirement.
my stack is out of control too. Also, when you start writing comics, it's the same thing. Sometimes you got to read a lot of stuff for homework,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily the stuff that you just want to like dig into, you know. And I like to keep a track of what's coming out, day of, and so it's like there's always stuff that just starts piling up that I wish I could get to faster. But yeah, I'm with you.
How does how, like okay, let's look at Lazarus Planet right now, and you have 2 shorts as of right now. Like we mentioned, that there's the Firestorm and then the Doom Patrol. Like, did you pitch Doom Patrol? Like, did an editor tell you, like, hey, like, you might be a good fit here? Or like, how do you land a gig like that? And then and is yeah, let's start with that. Like, how did you land the
Okay.
gig, basically?
It actually came about really organically as I was wrapping up Future State. I was talking to my editor. He's the executive editor now, Ben Abernathy, and basically it was just talking about other opportunities for me in the DC universe. And I had an idea for a Robot Man story that ultimately became issue 3 of this series. But I was kind of just like thinking of that. I was just kind of, just telling him little ideas that I had. But I also had strong opinions about the Doom Patrol. And I kind of went off on a little rant. And I was basically like just talking about the DC universe, like even compared to the Marvel universe. And there's a pretty distinct difference, I think, whereas like, Marvel Universe, it has the Avengers and it has X-Men and it has Fantastic Four and it has like all these families of books that are kind of all pillars of that universe, and they overlap and they cross over, but they're still like their own little fiefdoms.
Mm-hmm.
And in the DC universe, it's different because there's really just one big pillar in the DC universe, and that's the Justice League, and everything kind of revolves around those core characters of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, even like the Titans book. That's their sidekicks that are grown up now. The JSA is their mentors. Like it's all kind of just this one big pillar. And I said, there are other things that are kind of off that need to be built up, like the Doom Patrol. The Doom Patrol is kind of over here on its own. They don't really have any strong connections. Like their only connection is, Beast Boy used to be on the Doom Patrol. But other than that, they're not connected in any significant way to the Justice League. And they're kind of over there doing their own thing. They're the world's strangest superheroes. They're usually dealing with weird stuff. It's like we should be building that up. We should be making that as strong a pillar as the Justice League. And like as I was talking, I was getting passionate about it, and Ben was like, "Well, you should pitch a Doom Patrol book." I was like,
Nice.
"Oh yeah, I guess I should." I got all these opinions about it, and then he suggested, we had already been talking about me working with Burnham. He's like, "You should do that with Burnham," and I was like, "That's a great idea." So it wasn't an assignment. It wasn't like somebody high up at DC said, "We need a Doom Patrol comic." It was more like there wasn't a Doom Patrol comic. There's this TV show going on. There's a vacuum, and it just kind of made sense. And then as I was developing that with Ben, Lazarus Planet was evolving, and that's when you get into kind of like the game, the gaming it out, and they're like, well, can this connect to Lazarus Planet? And I saw a real clear way with that because it was already built into my pitch that they were saving the world by saving the monsters, and I was like, this Lazarus Planet is obviously going to make more metahumans. Like it's perfect. It fit perfectly. And so then Paul is the editor on Lazarus Planet. He's like, hey, what if we do a little story that tees it up before the other thing so we kind of connect it? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And it kind of just happened organically there, and we just kept building momentum. And we're doing a really neat thing. Like it's going to be a 6-issue series, but the plan is that it'll be like a prestige season of television where there's plans for more. Like I was asked when I did the outline to prepare future arcs.
Nice.
But it really depends on like ratings, like TV, on how well it does. So, this is why I'm doing a lot of shows and stuff, is getting people to go out and like pre-order the book, let their comic shop know that they want to order all 6 issues. That way we keep sales strong and we can keep doing books with this. Also, to kind of further build out and develop the Doom Patrol as a concept, some of the issues of that mini, it's not just going to be one story in a mini series. It's going to be the first four issues are all like done in one issues. There's an underlying plot, and that underlying plot will play out in a two-parter in 5 and 6. But doing those like done in one issues where it's like it's a single adventure and we kind of hit and we introduce some characters and things like that, we end up telling a lot of story in a very short amount of time. So I'm excited about that. Like we're really building it out. In issue 2, we introduced the Doom Patrol's new headquarters. Like it's just a whole brand new status quo for the way Doom Patrol interacts with the DC universe.
Very, very like everything you say is just getting me like I'm like sweating.
It's gonna be fun,
I'm
man. Like I'm,
excited.
I'm having a blast. Like Burnham is killing it. Like he's an amazing artist, and this is Burnham drawing weird stuff and weird
Yeah,
monsters. Like that's right up his alley.
dude.
Uh,
I remember Nameless.
yeah,
That him and Grant did. That was just like one of that kind of reminded me of like the Lemire Sorrentino the passageway stuff going on right now, where it's like I'm taken to another realm.
yeah.
I'm like disgusted and bewildered, and like I don't necessarily know what's going on, but like I'm here for it. And
I was in the studio with him when he was drawing a lot of that, and just watching that
like peeking
unfold.
over his shoulder.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like just watching it happen, I was like, "Oh, this is so good. I love it."
Dude, that's sick. Shout out to Frank Doomies Unite. Hell yeah, baby. Thanks for tuning in. We got another question from Gotham Radio about the Lazarus Planet, the Resin Rain. Is that going to be popping into the mini series at all again, or is it just like
Other than like affecting people externally, if you read the Grant Morrison run, there was a spin-off during that called Invasion, which is a classic crossover. But in the course of that, these aliens, they let off a gene bomb, and that's where Jane came from. Her powers developed when the gene bomb went off, and it was kind of a similar thing where it caused all these new superhumans to happen. Whereas like Simon, who's going to be a part of the Doom Patrol cast, he's affected by it. Some of the metahumans that they'll encounter out in the field will probably have come from that Lazarus event. But it's more, we're focused on the metahumans. The Lazarus event is kind of like the jumping off point. Like it's like here's a status quo among the metahumans we already have. There's just more and more popping up now because of this crazy event. Let's hit the ground running. It causes the Doom Patrol to really jump into their mission much faster than they anticipated. They were planning this thing, and now it's suddenly like they had to kick it into overdrive.
Very cool. Yeah, it like you mentioned earlier, like there was this comic void of Doom Patrol which is so weird because like when we look at the MCU and all these Disney shows and like usually that they're pretty good at timing it. Like I won't lie, I didn't really know who the like way back forever ago. I didn't really know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, and I hopped on when I saw the trailer I was like hell yeah. And then Brian Michael Bendis launched his Guardians of the Galaxy run and during like Marvel Now, and I started on there, and I know a lot of there's everybody has a critique about Brian Michael Bendis. I enjoy him, and
he's a great writer. I love his stuff.
That really got me into Guardians. But it's odd that with the success of Doom Patrol, multiple seasons, tons of outside comic fans now into Doom Patrol, right? That like never heard about it before. Very similar to like when Marvel dropped the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, when everybody was like, "Who the hell are these people?" And just like with the amazing cast and Brandon Fraser just being awesome all the time, but there was no comic to like coincide with the success of this series, and I'm really glad we're finally getting that in this new age, the dawn of DC. Like it's the light coming out of Dark Crisis, and it's exciting, and it's shining a new light onto these little niche corners of the DC world that in comics maybe have been forgotten about, not right now in mainstream media because of the show and stuff. But I'm stoked for what DC's doing. I like the structure of this new of Lazarus Planet. Like I said, it's not too many issues. There's not a ton of extra tie-ins for the completion. You don't ever have to buy all the tie-ins, but most of us in comics are completionists, and if you're going into an event, you're going into it, right? And you're going to
Yeah, you got to
get
catch them
everything.
all, right?
Yeah, and so it's affordable. It's spaced out well enough to where like you're not breaking your bank every month. And like I said, what I've read so far is great. And we've got like Greg Pak, Waters, Rom is doing stuff, like so many like huge
Yeah.
talents are like and artists are diving into this to this event. And how how is it as a writer? So you've like we mentioned before, you've had two shorts so far. What is it like writing stuff like that that's structured into these anthology issues as opposed to like Future State Gotham, where it's spun out of an event, but you got way more room to play,
Yeah.
or Doom Patrol, which is spinning out of an event, but is like now your own. Like these things are your own story once you like leave that canopy. But this is, with Firestorm and with the first Doom Patrol short, this is very much contained in the event. And so, like, how is that with working with all these different creatives, even though you're all kind of telling your own story? Is that tricky, especially with your page count limitations and stuff too?
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. There's when you're in the crossover, there are definitely you've got like a border, like there's obstacles and things that you have to, a frame that you have to work into. Whereas when I was doing something like Future State Gotham, which was pretty much an alternate future, it was just a wide open canvas. And both of those have their pluses and their minuses when you're doing that stuff. But uh, you just kind of the way I look at it is, sometimes the limits are helpful. Knowing that I have 10 pages, knowing that I have to include the Lazarus feature, with the rain and everything, and that has to affect the heroes or somehow in the story. Um, those are good rules to have to kind of get you moving in the story. It's sometimes when you have a blank page, just an empty canvas, that's harder because you got to kind of then start making up your own rules just to kind of give you something to kind of work within. Also, speaking to the timing that you were talking about earlier with the Doom Patrol, there was a lot going on between the end of the last series and now, the global pandemic and all of those
Yeah.
things. But the Doom Patrol coming back right now, there's a lot of really interesting timing. The Dawn of DC initiative kind of evolved as we were developing this. The Lazarus Planet was kind of happening as we were putting this together. And the Lazarus Planet really fits perfectly for like the Doom Patrol's mission. The Dawn of DC is like the best possible way to elevate a book like this that's going to be firmly rooted in the DC universe. I'm really grateful. But also this year, a lot of people don't know it's the 60th anniversary of the Doom Patrol.
Oh
And
wow.
that wasn't necessarily planned on our part. That was more of a happy accident. But it's like all of these things. I feel like the universe is conspiring to make this book a huge hit, and I'm really excited about that because it's all coming together in a really magical way.
That is really, really cool. I mean, DC's had some cool anniversaries this year, like Death of Superman, and we got
Yeah,
the special Death of Superman issue, which was cool to go back to. I always love telling the story because you mentioned. I know my audience has heard it a few times, but I always like telling it to you guys because like it's my show. Fuck you. I can tell the
yeah.
story however many
Do whatever
times
you
I
want.
want. But I was introduced to DC at a young age too. I was obsessed with Michael Keaton's Batman, right? Which I have so many like mixed feelings about the Flash because of that actor and the weird shit he's done. But like
Sure.
seeing Michael Keaton in that trailer like took my fucking breath away. And, like and also like I'm a huge Chiefs fan, so like that happened during the Super Bowl was already like a great time. And then to
That's
see
funny.
Michael Keaton in the suit on the screen again and whooping some ass like oh man he looked like a young buck, right, just flapping
Yeah, it was
around.
great. I'm a huge fan of Batman '89 and Batman Returns. Like those
Yeah.
are the best.
But so anyway, so as a kid, right, I'm into DC, and my dad wasn't into comics, but he kind of got me into comics. Like he took me to my first comic book shop, and like would grab me random comics sometimes. One of the story we're getting to is he was the janitor at my my sister and I went to private school, and he was the janitor maintenance man, and he got a discount on our tuition, for
Yeah.
working there too. Uh, and so one day we're all out at recess and he brings me the Death of Superman trade paperback, the original one.
Wow.
And like he was like, hey, the comic book shop guy said this was like the hot thing out right now, and so like this is like I'm in second grade, right? I don't know about previews. I don't know about solicits, right? I'm getting
Yeah.
X-Men comics from 7-Eleven, yeah, and never like the right issues, just whatever they have.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, first I'm like, whoa, superheroes can die.
Yeah, that must have
And
blown your mind. That's
dude,
amazing.
it was crazy. And what was cool was like out at recess, everybody like huddled around me and we're like reading it, and like I would like get ready to turn a page and they'd be like, wait, okay, now you can turn it. And so like we're all trying to like read this at the same time, and like watch Doomsday just crush the ever living shit out of him, and then both of them collapsing in the end. And yeah, I'd never experienced anything like that, right? It totally blew my mind. And
Yeah.
that is why I will always have a soft spot for DC Comics, for my whole life. Like they'll never be able to chase me away, and I really couldn't imagine them doing anything. I like a lot of stuff. My buddy tells me that he doesn't know how I review comics because I like everything. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, that's not true. I was like, if I don't like something, I don't typically talk about it because I don't like to talk shit.
Sometimes though, when you love something too much, it like makes you more critical too, like
Yeah,
if you
that's
like
true.
if you hold it too big in your heart. And like I love the DC characters because they're just like these big icons. Like they're some of the best characters, and it's like you know it's sometimes very humbling dealing with these like characters that have just been looming so large in our imaginations when we were kids, and now you get to be the one kind of playing with the toys and telling them what to
Yeah.
do.
Oh, dude, I couldn't imagine that, man. I couldn't like to be in your position right now. Like, and just
It's
like
fun.
this,
It's like
this
every
is
day.
like,
It's like it's not even work. I'm just having fun. Like.
yeah, because I mean, the last few years you've had, like I mentioned earlier, you've found yourself at a good time to be in DC, and you keep getting gigs. Shout out to the comics. John Westhoff's in here with Part Time Comics. Thanks for tuning in. Check out his comic on Kickstarter. Drumsticks of Doom is awesome. That's live right now. Let's see, we got Stephen Coburn. Has there been any ideas that were turned down by editorial, either as a conflict, a different story, or just a no in general? Like, yeah, like how's DC editorial treating you? Like, it sounds from our previous talk, or just a few minutes ago, it sounds
Yeah.
like they were just basically pretty excited for like you and your vibe and your love of
Yeah,
Doom
the one
Patrol.
thing I love working with Ben Abernathy, my editor, especially like, of all my editors, like Ben, I've worked with the most at DC. And the cool thing about Ben is I will just come to him with the craziest idea. And instead of saying no, he finds a way to make it work. And, a real good for instance of this is like, so pretty much ever since I've known Burnham, he had this like just this dream of having a scratch off cover. Like he just loved the idea of like a scratch off comic cover, and I thought it was I was like that's pretty fun. And then when we got Doom Patrol greenlit, Burnham and I talked about the scratch off cover, and I was like, well, I'll ask Ben. I don't know if that's something that can be done. Like I've never really seen it. There's only been one other one as far as I know. And so I was having
I thought that was like a
breakfast with
brand new thing. Like,
yeah, I was having breakfast with Ben at San Diego, and it was kind of just a meeting to kind of talk about kicking off the Doom Patrol, and kind of where we're at. And I was like, Burnham has a crazy idea. I'm really into it too. What do you think about having a scratch off variant? And one of Ben's ideas is he wanted to have some variant covers that were really driven to the characters themselves. Like issue 2 has a variant cover that's glow in the dark for Negative Man, so his like bandages glow in the dark. So it's like, he's got a real sharp mind for variant covers, and I was like, well, what if we do this? And like, instead of saying no, or instead of saying that sounds impossible, he just picked up his phone, he started texting people. And he was just trying to find a way to make it happen. He's like, I don't know if we can do that, but let's try. And then as Burnham and I were talking, we kind of developed the idea. It's like, well, if we're going to do a character-driven variant, what makes the most sense is if, like, when you scratch it off, it's like the lottery. There's a different result behind the thing. And then I was like, well, what if we're behind Jane, she's standing at a mirror, and there's just different reflections. And I did a quick sketch, and we like ran that by Ben, and then Burnham like did it up, made it real nice, and Brian Reber colored it. And man, it's happening. We're gonna have like, so there's one of the variants for the first issue.
Did I hear right? There's 60 different ones or something?
No. There's 5.
Oh shit! All right. Well, I was way off. Never mind.
Yeah. Burnham would still be drawing if he had to draw all of those. But we wanted at first we were like, well, can we just do like a couple, 2 or 3? And then Ben was like, he taught, and he's like, he talked to the people at DC and they're like, can we do 5? And so then it was like, we have, the chief, we got to do her, right? And then we have a brand new alter that no one's ever seen before coming in the first issue, and she's called Shy, and it's like this young looking girl who's like covering all of her face except for her eye. And so we've got her on there. We've got Chainsaw Nun. And then we've got some of the classic alters like Black Annis and Sun Daddy, just to kind of have that rounded out. But basically, when you see that variant cover on the shelf, you scratch it off and you're going to get one of 5 of those. You don't know which one it's going to be. It's just going to be a random thing. And it seems like it's really popular. I think it's popular because it's very character driven. It's not just a random idea that there's a reason for that variant cover. It's the kind of stuff I love, and it made me excited. So that's something that I wanted to push for. But yeah, man, when I'll just throw crazy ideas at Ben, and sometimes you run into other things, or like another writer's got a similar idea cooking, like, and you got to kind of find a way to veer off in a different direction. But for the most part, like, it's like good improv, like DC's always like, yes, and, trying to figure out how we can amp it up and make it better. I love working with Ben. He's great.
Cool, man. Yeah, great comic book editors. Don't get the like comic letters sometimes don't get the shout outs they deserve, but I know they definitely help you guys and guide your vision. Like,
yeah,
and I like that. I like that they help mold your vision, not help mold your vision into their vision. Like, that's
sure. Yeah, and a lot of there's great people in the collaboration chain that are invisible. I mean, even lettering for the most part, you don't always, when it's good, you don't really notice it because it's just there. But when it's bad, it like pulls you out of the story. Yeah. And the best editors are able to kind of deftly put it in there so the story is just flowing seamlessly, and you're not even really aware of the words. You're just hearing the voices in your head as the characters are speaking to each other.
Nice. I was going to ask with these scratch off covers, because I definitely wanted to talk about it. I'm so glad you brought it up because cool. I'm so bad about getting sidetracked.
It's all good.
But like, I don't like the spec market. I think it's dirty and weird, and I'm all about the hustle. I'm unemployed right now. I get it. Like, hustle, make your money. But I kind of was wondering what that's gonna. I'm not a slabber either. Like, I've never been a CGC guy. But I was kind of wondering, like, what that's going to do. Like, if you send in a pristine cover that isn't scratched off, and how they grade that, or if you send one in that is scratched off, just like back in the Marvel digital code days, like they'll knock off
exactly,
like 2 for peeling the sticker or something like that. Like, so I just was kind of wondering, like, how
I'm like you. I don't even bag and board comics. Like, I've got like
dinner. Well,
I've got like omnibuses and trades on a shelf, and I usually keep those. But a lot of times my comics, I'll just end up giving them away, give them out to at Halloween to kids. As the comics pile, the ones that I can give away, or I'll give them out to friends. Nice. And then the trades is the stuff that I like to keep. But I also had to make peace with the idea that there are different markets in comics, and I'm a reader, and that's what I like. And there are other people where it's a speculative market, and there's people that are collectors. That there's people that collect Pokemon cards that never play Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're just as valid as the people that are buying the cards and wearing them out and playing the game and all that stuff. But it's just, there's different types of people in our business. I don't, reading comics digitally isn't always my favorite thing. Like, I love having a comic. I use the apps, but there's something to be said about holding that comic in your hand, that new comic, especially when it's like really nicely, pristinely designed and stuff like that. And you can just see the craftsmanship to it. There's some people that only read them digital, and there's just, I started to have to realize that there's a lot of different streams. And in order to make our comics successful, we need it to sell. And if like having those kinds of special covers and things that will excite the speculative market helps that happen, then I'm all for it, And if we can also make it feel meaningful and tied to the story, then I think that's the best of both worlds. Because that Jane, that's a cover that's about her character, and that's really neat to me. Other people might disagree, but I think that's super cool, and it's something where as a kid I would have been like, well, I got to buy 5 of these, I got to figure this out, and like scratching them off, and then one to keep pristine and all that stuff. But,
yeah. I've seen, I do the same things because like I buy like Vault Comics got me into buying the the not safe for work covers that they put out, and
Uh-huh.
they come in black bags, right? And I was like, I'm not leaving them in that bag. I'm not leaving them in that bag.
Yeah.
But I'm like weird, right? So I'll open it real carefully, and then I'll put the backing board in the black bag and
Oh,
like
that's funny.
bag and board all that together, so it's all kind of cohesive. Which I'm sure is just a waste of time, but I just, I like to have it all there to remind me, I
I mean,
guess.
it's your experience, like it's like whatever makes you happy about the way you interact with comics is all that matters. And it's like I think at from the top end down from the publisher side, it's their job to cater to all those markets and like
Hmm.
help fulfill, that the fun in comics because that's all part of it, like you remember the X-Force comics that had all the Rob Liefeld trading cards inside the
Yeah.
poly bags. I was really excited about that, or like the multiple Jim Lee covers, the big gatefold cover. It was just cool, and then to discover on that gatefold cover that there was a poster inside,
Yeah.
on the other side of the cover, and it was like, oh my god, I had bought an extra one just so I could rip it off the book and put it on my wall, because I just thought it was so cool. It was such a big Jim Lee fan, and it's just like all that stuff's really neat, and I think comics are supposed to be fun. It's not just, it's the reading, but it's also, the way different people interact with that. I don't know, I think it's kind of beautiful in its own way.
No, it's I love the crazy shit that they're doing right now. C Solus, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, same with me, man. Like, there's so much
Thank you.
stuff coming out right now, but the Doom, Unstoppable Doom Patrol, also just a great title. I love that. Adding the Unstoppable really makes it hit a little different. Like it gives it
Yeah, yeah.
more agency and like just like that, like more intensity. Frank says Jane having a chief personality is dope. Yes, like I'm excited to see more of that. I love her
Thanks, Frank.
character. David Hazan, writer of Nottingham. Thanks for tuning in, bud. Everybody should also check out Tales of Nottingham right now. That is in shops right now. You should definitely look at that from Mad Cave. Let's see. And yeah, selling. I've tried to sell comics a couple times and it never works. Maybe I need to sing some Lion King songs to get my juju up or something, man. Because
Yeah.
the last time I tried that, I bought the Kieran Gillen Darth Vader omnibus on a Nick and Dent sale, paid $50 for it, and it was fine. Like I couldn't even find the dent. I was like,
Yeah.
whatever. And then I tried to sell the trades, the four trades and the crossover trade, and I was like, $30 shipped. I keep my stuff in good condition, pretty solid deal. But yeah, I was like, it'll be like only paying $20 for the omnibus, and yeah, I couldn't move those Star Wars trades for the life of me. Tried to sell the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1 because I have the deluxe 13 books of the
Right.
series and didn't really need the omnibus. And then right when I got ready to sell it, they announced that they were going to reprint it. And so yeah, I just like, but I need to try because I'm drowning in books and
I
I
don't
do
have the
have,
patience for it. That's why I just end up giving stuff away to
yeah,
friends and stuff. It's like I love that Darth Vader series by
so
Kieran.
good. So good.
Give it to a fan that loves Star Wars because that's a great book. It's just if you can't sell it, you can always give it away.
Yeah, and I know like a lot of people do like giveaways for their channels too to like help with the
Oh
growth and
yeah,
stuff.
that's smart
And
too.
I used to be really against that, right? I used to when I first started this, I was like, I'm never asking for followers. I'm not going to do giveaways and be like, follow me. And then after you struggle for I've been in March, it'll be 2 years of Blake's Buzz.
Yeah.
Of like when I launched, it started as a blog. I launched a review blog and then it turned into a podcast. Then the live stream kind of spun out of that. Now I'm trying to do three things at once, and turns
Right.
out I suck at juggling. So like, but I like now I see the benefit in like doing a giveaway.
Plus, you make space in your house, like
Yeah,
like
and
it's
and
win-win.
you make someone's day. Like
Yeah.
you do a good thing, and someone gets cool comics to read. You free up some space. Maybe you get a couple followers out of it. So yeah, I do plan on doing more of that in the future. But yeah, like man, I'm just so stoked for you in DC right now because everything I've read by you, I've really enjoyed.
I
And
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
yeah,
I'm putting my whole heart into it. It's sometimes a bumpy road, and it's like it doesn't hit the way you kind of want it to hit. But it's like I feel like you get better as you go, and you kind of you fix it on the next page, right? And like
yeah,
I'm really excited for Doom Patrol to come out because I just we're doing all the fun things that I love in comics and Burnham loves in comics, and like I said, we're buds. Even the colorist is somebody that we're tight with, Brian Reber. So it's just making books with your buddies, man. I love that. Like it's great. And I'm a huge fan of the characters, so it's hopefully it's going to hit everybody in a really great way. I think it's special. I think we're gonna be able to keep making more, and that's just as long as everybody's pre-ordering it, letting their comic shop know they got to get orders in by March 5th.
Yeah, so you still got a few days to
Yeah,
pre-order
couple
that,
weeks.
and especially if you want some of these, like, I almost said scratch and sniff, especially if you want these like scratch off covers, which there's a lot of buzz around that right now. Because when I told like some of my nerd friends I was interviewing you, and they were like, my friend Becky works in a comic book shop, and she's kind of variants because of Penguin that don't always get shipped with the care that they should be
Oh,
shipped with,
right.
right? And then she has to like write these letters and it start the refund process and all that. It's like it ends up being a huge mess. But she even was excited about it. She's like, "Did you see like the scratch off covers they're doing? That's crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, that's dope." I've been a sucker for DC the variants, like back in like the New 52 days when they did the
Uh,
lenticular covers.
oh yeah,
I bought
yeah.
I
Burnham did
bought
one of those
every
for Batman,
yeah,
Two Face one. Yeah.
yeah, I bought all the lenticular covers for the for the villains for Future State, and I also bought the villains lenticular omnibus with the lenticular dust jacket. Like I was obsessed with them, and I got into a bidding war and spent $170 on the Forever Evil #1 first print lenticular
Oh man.
cover. And they were selling like that crazy for that first week, and now you can fucking get them for like $30. And there's a second print of them now, which you can get for
Yeah.
even less. But what we learn,
You get caught up in the moment. I've been there. It's just
yeah,
like you want it now. Like you
yeah.
gotta have it. Yeah.
And it gets exciting too, and you're like, yeah, I got money. Yeah, I used to work in a bar, right? So
Right.
I got tipped out a lot from the bartenders and stuff working behind the bar, and so I always had like a ton of cash money. And like Tuesday nights, I would was used to be like the dollar draw $5 pitcher night, and when the college kids were in town. It was a shit show, but we made a lot of we'd make a lot of money. So like here's like every new comic book Wednesday, I got a pocket full of cash, right? I'm going up to the comic book shop, spending it all, being a Wednesday warrior, being like, I'll make it back, Friday and Saturday, and that. So I do kind of miss that. I don't. I don't go into a lot of comic book shops like every Wednesday anymore. Like it's I've kind of moved away from that. If I do buy that stuff, I buy it just because I'm running out of room. I buy it digitally,
Yeah.
and I'm more of like a hardcover omnibus, big collection guy. I love the omnibuses. I have so many of them. It's my favorite format. Everybody's always like they're so heavy, and I'm just like, "Hey, hold it, that's fine."
Yeah. You get a lectern, like one of those things
Yeah,
you
or like
stand
a
a book
or
on,
like
and
a
then you
lap
can,
desk, like it's
yeah, read it
there's
fancy.
there's ways to compensate for the
I love
awkwardness.
omnibuses too. I've got a bunch here on the shelf and over on this shelf. Like they're such a fun way, and like I love all the extra stuff in them, and it's
Yeah.
great.
I will say at the risk of ever having a big Marvel people on the show, because I do love my Marvel comics, but yes, like the DC cardstock variants are pure money. I like for Rom's Swamp Thing, I did buy
Uh,
the singles because the covers were all so beautiful. I bought the A and B and pay. I never minded paying that extra dollar for the cardstock cover. Like they were just absolutely gorgeous.
yeah, there's some great ones, variants of that DC put out that are just like, because they're usually they don't have any logo or trade dress on them other than a really
Hmm.
minor way, and then it ends up it looks like a piece of art, and I have these little book stands, and I'll just put an issue up, like you put up an album while you're playing it or something,
Yeah.
but it's just like you just like got this cool piece of art that you can look at, and it's like that to me, that's I love comic art, like just like looking at stuff, it's so cool.
Yeah, and I'm saying there's some streamers that have like whole walls of comics, and they can like
Yeah,
with the
that's
mounts,
fun.
and they can like swap them out and stuff. Like, that's my next deal. I need to work on like a cool streaming environment. Like to, but also like all the best YouTube streamers and stuff. Like they have like the fancy cameras that automatically blur your background. So sometimes I'm like, do you need the fancy background
Yeah.
if your $1,000 camera is just gonna blur it out and it makes you look better? Like, so there's so many weird things about trying to be a content creator these days that I'm
Yeah.
still
I'm always
navigating.
amazed at the show's backgrounds and stuff, and like I think is it Comic Pop? They've got a great little set that they've built and stuff. Like there's just all kinds of cool things. But yours is cool. Like I see your frames on the wall back there. Like
Yeah,
that's
I've got some, but I also have like piles of books around me, and
yeah.
so I dim the lights and have
That's
my
why I use lighting in the back. I just throw some light on the wall, and I feel
yeah.
like that'll, that's good enough.
I, I feel like if we can see each other and sound okay, I feel like that's
Exactly.
more important than the back. Like like once you get everything, set up. Like I'm back to. I just had to because I quit my job and like I had like two monitors and my work laptop and. I wasn't supposed to, but I turned that into my podcast studio and I would like edit on my work laptop and all this shit I
Right.
wasn't supposed to do. And I had to, of course, when I left, I had to give all that back. So I'm on a 2013 MacBook Air.
Oh man.
Now I have like a nice mic, USB interface and stuff too. But the computer is old, and I'm just really excited that it's handling the live streams. It's got an Intel i5 in it, so like but it's an older i5. But I mean, so it's
Yeah,
not
it's
like
reading great on
archaic.
my end. Like it, I just did one with Word Balloon, and he uses a similar Streamyard,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's a great service. So
Stream.
yeah,
Oh,
you guys are
it's
doing
so
good.
simple. It's so simple and affordable. Yeah, for real. Shout out to Streamyard. I do dig the product and yeah, it makes this. I used to use Zoom, but Zoom like nukes your audio.
Yeah.
It like sounds like dog shit. It's just it's like and even if you pay for it, it still lowers the bit rate of the audio, which I don't really get. But yeah, Streamyard's been just a gem. It's easy. I send you guys the link, you click it. It seems to work well, and then you have the video and audio that you can do all your fancy stuff with at the end. So it's a cool service. Um, in this new world of like online meeting software, there's so much of it out now. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I used to be super techie, man, and this I make me sound like an old man, but like I used to fix computers and know how to like I still know how to build one, but like how they format the hard drives and stuff now and with the partitions and stuff, like I get confused there. But all the like computers have changed, and so like now I'm like trying to be like I'm not technologically dumb, but sometimes I'm like some of these other streamers and their setups, and I've heard them talk about it, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'll pay 25 a month for StreamYard and not have to think about it, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
Because I get to focus on this. I get to focus on the talk and you and prepping and reading the comics beforehand, and maybe I don't have like fancy graphics that fly and flutter around and do shit, but hey,
I mean,
like
this looks great. I think you're doing a good job here, man.
well, thanks, man. I know
Yeah.
I appreciate you're doing a good job too, Dennis. I don't know if I
Thanks.
mentioned that already, but I am very excited for your future projects. I hope this continues for you. I really do. Like I love Josh Williamson, and I think it's so cool you got to like work with him.
Josh and I go way back. When I first moved to LA, he was the guy working at my comic shop,
Nice.
and we've known each
That's so
other
cool. What a
like 20
small world.
years. Yeah. And then when I moved to Portland, I discovered he had moved to Portland in it like just coincidentally, and so we were hanging out up there. And yeah, Josh is one of my favorite people. Like we get along together. Even before I was writing for DC, like when I was doing indie books and stuff, like we would always trade scripts back and forth and like kind of give each other notes and things like that. So. Having being able to come into DC working with Josh was the perfect way to do it. It's making comics with your buddies. Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's so cool. His Ghosted is still one of my favorite comics
Yeah, it's a
ever.
great book. It's
And
a
it's
great
getting
book.
a compendium in September.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited that I hope more people read it. Right when that new collection. I really was hoping it'd be a hardcover when I heard it was coming out, but you know what? It's still really 20 awesome issues in a compendium. That's going to make it even more affordable because it's a paperback. And I'm really stoked for more people to get to know that because a lot of people know his name now. But I mean, that comic was 10 years old now, 12 years
Yeah,
old,
it's
something
like
like
when
that.
Bendis started getting big, and then people were going back and discovering goldfish and Jinx and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Like,
His Jinx World stuff. Exactly.
yeah, it's that's kind of the magic of like being an author. Like you develop your backlist, and then when one of those things is a hit, you've got all this other stuff ready for people and stuff too. But yeah, we'll have to do this again, man. I had a great time, and maybe when the next Doom Patrol is coming together, we'll come back and talk about it too. So
Yeah,
it'll be
dude.
really good.
Like for real, man. Anytime you need if you want to do press for a new book or something,
For sure.
I'd be happy to have you. So, what's the actual date of Unstoppable Doom Patrol #1?
So it comes out on March 28th.
March
The
28th.
final order cutoff is March 5th, and that just means that's the last day that you can tell your retailer that you want it.
Hmm.
So when you're going to your comic shop, I would say put it on your pull list. That way you're guaranteeing that they're going to order all 6 issues. The way that the market works, it's really important that we not only have like a strong first issue, but we don't have a big drop off in sales after that first issue too. So
Yeah.
we're doing a lot on our end, but it's just really getting the word out. People that are Doom Patrol fans or they're interested in Doom Patrol and they want a good jumping on point. This is a great place to do it. Like my goal is to build this out like a franchise, it's its own, like I said, its own pillar, and it's got spin-offs and everything else. I would love to see the Doom Patrol become a very prominent part of the DC universe, and I think
Same.
they should be. Like I said, they've been around 60 years. It's the same time that the X-Men came about, and they have very similar concepts. And
Yes.
Doom Patrol went one way and X-Men went the other, and I feel like there's a space now in the comics market for what we're putting out. I think it's going to really hit well.
Yeah, I was thinking that too when you were talking about your vision of Doom Patrol and how it's like the protect the monsters to protect the people
Yeah,
kind of, right?
very similar idea, and it's an idea that's always kind of been there, built into both teams. That X-Men now are kind of in the Krakoa stuff and have kind of gotten into a little bit of the machine war stuff with all of that stuff. But so I feel like there's a vacuum there with the stories that I'm going to tell. So I
Yeah.
think that'll be fun too. And if you want to be really DC versus Marvel about it, Doom Patrol got there first. They came out several months before X-Men did.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It has been shocking to me for a while that, because I do feel like Batman, like Superman, like Titans, Doom Patrol should have an ongoing comic at all times. I
Absolutely.
feel like
Yeah. That's and like I said, that's our plan. We'll do 6 issues a year. We'll maybe have some specials. Get involved in the crossovers, all those things. But like I said, everybody has to show up, and like we'll get it going. And also on my Substack, which is just Dennis Culver. If you read the Lazarus Planet special this week, if you leave a comment on that post on my Substack, I'm going to run like a letter column on Monday
Nice.
that I'm calling the Doom Scroll. And it'll just basically be any questions you've got about the upcoming series or about the story that I just did. I'm happy to answer those. Or you can use the hashtag on Twitter, the Doom Scroll, all one word, and I'll find that and I'll answer questions. So I want to interact with the readers, because they're a part of the collaborative process too, and it's like we're gonna build this thing together. It's gonna be awesome.
Dude, I love that. Oh, everything you've said, man,
Yeah.
has me fucking pumped, dude. Again, like, I'm so glad that we were introduced to each other. I'm so glad you agreed to come on my show and give me. I know you're a busy guy, and it's been a very big pleasure to talk to you about Doom Patrol. I have loved what you've brought to Lazarus Planet. As I mentioned to everybody, I've been a big fan of Lazarus Planet. I think everybody should check it out, especially the DC Ultra is a very cool way to have access to a lot of comics and save some money for some people are hurting right now. So, and that's worth. DC's doing a lot of great stuff right now. I just think
Like I said, I'm a
get that out
reader, and like I definitely I love hearing from readers. However you're reading it, just let me know. And yeah, if you got questions or comments, let me know. Doom Patrol should be a movement. Let's make it huge.
Hell yeah, man. You mentioned
yeah.
you have a Substack. Let's the polite podcast host that I am, or streamer, or whatever the fuck I am these days. This is the part where I ask you, like, where's the best places to find you at and keep track of you. I know you're on some of the socials. Like, let the audience know where to find you and follow
I
you.
make it easy. It's Dennis Culver, all one word, and it's on Twitter, Instagram, Substack, Tumblr. I think the only difference is like I have a Facebook one that's like Dennis Culver Writes, but yeah, if you just type Dennis Culver into Google, I'm the #1 result. You can find all my stuff.
Very cool. All right, man. So like he said, it is important to pre-order your comics, folks. And it would be really great if everybody showed up and pre-ordered Doom Patrol. If you're a digital person, you can pre-order stuff through Comixology.
Yeah.
Still, like, I know things are getting crazy over there, but it's still, for the big two, it's still kind of our only option for digital that way right now, and it works. It really does. I've been, like I said, I've been using it to read Lazarus.
And listen, if you can't pre-order it, get a friend to do it. Like if it's just something where you're not able to right now, this, like, spreading the word is just as important.
Yeah.
Getting other people interested in the book is just as important. Like get people reading and talking about the book, and that'll get people excited and buying and ordering the book. That's what we want. That's the end game.
Definitely, because yeah, I would love to have more minis and see the Doom Patrol be around at more parts of the year. Like you said, like one shot specials, all these ideas would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the numbers have to show up, which makes it a little scary. So I really hope like doing press like with me, like with my audience, like I hope some of us like give you some pre-order bumps. I'll be pre-ordering
once you see where it's going, like once you start reading the issues, you're gonna want more. So you might as well jump on it now.
Yeah.
Like I had some really cool stuff, and it's Burnham drawing it. Like it's perfect. It's gonna be really good. If you like the Lazarus story, like it was great that we got to get that out because it's like just a little taste, and it gives you a little appetizer of what's to come. If you liked how that looked, if you liked how that felt, we're just doing more of that.
Yeah, and that short was phenomenal and absolutely gorgeous. I love his style, and
Yeah.
I like that you can tell you guys are vibing well, which makes sense now that you've said like you've known him for a while. You guys are friends.
Yeah. We talk every day. It's a real fun process.
That's what I want to hear, man. It's like that Tom King, Mitch Gerard's thing, like that's
they're buddies. Yeah.
Anything else before I cue the music? Anything else you want to shout out or say to the audience before we get out of here?
No, that's everything. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a real good time, and let's do it again.
Very cool. Audience, hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for checking this out. Again, please pre-order your comics and please pre-order Unstoppable Doom Patrol. It's going to be dope. Also, you should be reading Lazarus Planet because it is also pretty dope and I'm having a good time with it. Give us all a follow our Substacks, learn about some cool comics. My name's Blake. I love you. I love you all. Thank you for listening. I appreciate every single one of you. And I think it's time to say goodnight.
Night.
It's Blake's Buzz Live.